at the archaeological site at Fort Butler looking for the powder magazine, and this is some of the excavations we've hit before finding the powder magazine. Some brickwork and foundation that we're not quite sure where it ties into the fort yet, but we're screening all the dirt and finding a few artifacts in with the dirt that do belong to the Civil War. And we have archaeology students here helping. And the flags out here, the blue flags, show where some artifacts have been taken out, mostly mini balls. And we're just clearing off the brick that's in place, taking all the brick rubble out and getting down to the brick that is obviously in place and cleaning all that off.
Yeah, 3, 2, 1.
We're taking the dirt from inside the foundation here. It includes brick rubble, and we're sifting through all that to find artifacts in the brick rubble right now. Searching for the smallest items, down to from bullets to percussion caps that get very small.
2 and 1.
Area at that level. And the people in front of that have just found something there that we need to go look at right now.
1.
Here we're cleaning off very carefully a piece of wood that's in this dirt here. And they're very carefully shaving off the dirt above it and next to it to find out where it leads to and how big it is. This piece of wood here seems to be beneath some brickwork, which is above it. So we'll be working up to this brickwork and see how it connects with that. There seems to be a brick walkway that runs above it.
Two, 1.
This brick pattern work here is, it's not a structure, it's more of a brick pattern work. The reason is unknown at this time. The tags that are in the ground are some artifacts that were found within the brickwork, which is chicken bones and eggshells and some nails. As far as it is now, we do not know what this represents, but we're hoping that it'll all fit in together eventually. This is one of the first structures that we did find when we began the excavation.
2, 1.
This brickwork here seems to be the steps that go down into the powder magazine of the fort. We have part of a wall, and we're trying to get the other half of the wall that made an arch, a brickwork arch over the structure, and these seem to be steps that go down into the powder magazine, which would have been at a deeper level. And we have a little bit of a sidewalk, and so this is another area that we need to reveal as much as we can.
Yeah. 2, 1.
This curve of bricks here is the first indication that we found the powder magazine of Fort Butler. It would have been a curved archway over the door and then come back on the other side, but we do see a curved brick pattern here, and the bricks are in place. They haven't been moved. So we're following this area to find the other wall, and we have the steps that probably go down into it. Gosh, where will it end?
Yeah, well, I see.
2, 1.
This is some of the brickwork that line the moat up the side of the fort, the walls of the fort. It was brick lined down to the moat bottom. We don't know if it came up the other side of the moat or not, but this is the brickwork that got pushed over when they knocked the fort over. But we do have a line of these bricks, and we're trying to find a point of the star that formed the fort. We have very large pieces of wood down in there, big square timbers, at least a foot wide, and that probably held up some of the brick up the side of the fort. And this was put up there probably to just keep the walls from sloughing down into the moat with erosion.
3, 2, and 1.
I'm Chip McGimsey. I'm the Southwest Regional Archaeologist for the state of Louisiana, based at USL in Lafayette, and I'm assisting Dr. Chris Hayes from LSU, who's in charge of this site. The archaeological purpose of this site is basically to try and establish exactly where the fort was located in space. We know generally where the fort was, and we have detailed maps from the war which indicate how the fort was built and where all the component parts were, such as the fort and the moat and the magazine and the quartermaster core and all that stuff. But we've never known exactly where those things are today, such that if somebody wanted to find a particular part of the fort, you could actually walk out in a yard or a field and say, this is where it is. And that's been the goal of the archaeological work of this particular project, is to try and identify several points that we know where they are on the Army map and then where they are in space today. And as you've seen previously on the video, or will see, we have identified a part of the fortification wall and the moat in one corner of the star-shaped wall. And directly behind me, we're exposing the entrance to the powder magazine, which is another part of the fort which we have on the Army maps. And so with those two pieces of information, we can actually take the original 1863 map of the fort and lay it down on an aerial photograph of today and know exactly how the fort lies with respect to the modern environment out here. Hopefully from this then, the Fort Butler Foundation will be able to take this information and begin developing plans for the preservation or potential restoration of this fort, and know exactly what property will be impacted, where the fort lies, whose property it lies under or with, and we'll know where they might be able to do certain restoration activities and those kinds of performances. Questions?
3, 2, and 1.
These are some of the artifacts that we have found so far. These are some of the Civil War bullets that were found in the excavation. This is what's called a mini ball here with the 3 rings. This one itself had to be pulled out of the gun using the ramrod with a screw attachment on it to actually extract the bullet back out of the rifle. Maybe it misfired, or they decided they need to unload it. This is called a Sharps bullet. It's another type of bullet used in the Civil War. It's for a Sharps carbine rifle. This is just a regular mini that probably was not fired, it was just dropped. This is what was a mini ball, except it had been carved up by some soldier, and then afterwards an animal took it and chewed it up. So it's got teeth marks on it. They're not human, they're animal teeth marks. So that's just an example of some of the artifacts we've found so far.
Okay, just for a little background information, this entire, up until this point, amount of shooting was done on the date you're seeing on the screen right now. We're just kind of doing a 360-degree pan here. To give you an idea of where this thing, there's Bayou Road, there's the Walter Lemon pumping station, and Fort Butler's dig. Right up here, right up against the side of the Mississippi River levee, where you can see the workmen working on the dig site.
Get it.
Mm-hmm.
This is the hard part. Staking everything out, making sure nobody gets hurt, and we don't get in any trouble.
First start, if you don't mind.
Okay.
In 5, 4, 3, 2.
I'm Dr. Chris Hayes, regional archaeologist for southeastern Louisiana. I'm based in the Museum of Natural Science at LSU, and my position involves working with private landowners throughout the southeastern region of the state. The mission of the program is to try to work with private landowners with the archaeological sites that they have on their properties, and also educate the public about archaeology. And this particular project mixes the two of them together. The site that Fort Butler is located on, the property here, is owned by the Bayou Lafourche Water District and some other private landowners here. And Andrew Capone called the state back in the fall of '95, and he thought he had found some of the remains of the fort when the Bayou Lafourche Water District had put a trench through an area, and they came up with brick, and historical records indicate that the fort was here. I was called in to offer technical assistance from the state, because that's my job, to work with private landowners and investigate sites on their properties. Right away, we established that one of the main goals of the project was to try to get the exact location of the fort, of certain sections of the fort, pinpointed. We had a blueprint of the fort, so that we knew that there was a powder magazine, and we knew that there were brick line moats, and we knew that there was a house associated with the fort.
That house over there is, we're fairly certain, dates to the time period of the Fort Butler. But we wanted to find a couple other points, and so that we could properly orient the old plans of the forts on the modern landscape. And so what we did was we said, what's the best way to do that? Powder magazine we knew was a large brick structure, and so that was one of the focuses of our investigation. Plus we also had clues as to where it was located, because August Bradford, who lives just nearby here, had played in it as a child. So we began our work here about 3 weeks ago. Prior to that, we had gotten permission, gotten permits from the Bayou Lafourche Water District and made sure everything was okay with them. And we put in some small shovel test pits to first determine the nature of the stratigraphy of the site and determine if there were any intact remains of the fort. When we did that initial work, we determined that there was a brick rubble layer about a foot or around 50 centimeters below the surface that we're standing on here, but we couldn't dig those test pits very deep. We figured that there must be some intact brick below that brick rubble. So at that point we had gotten permission from the Bayou Lafourche Water District, from the Bayou Lafourche, the Atchafalaya Levee District, excuse me, to use heavy equipment in order to try to put in deep trenches. And we ran a trench along the edge of the levee, and we found the intact layer of brick. It was a chain of bricks that told us that we had some intact structure. And at that point then we started to expand out around the brick to try to find how far the walls went, how far the brick extended, and see if we could find any other associated features. We also then, we figured that we probably did not have the actual location of the powder magazine, especially since Mr. Bradford recalled it being farther up in the levee. So we started extending backhoe trenches further back in the levee, at the level, only coming down at the level at where we knew that there was intact brick, and so that we didn't want to disturb any of that intact brick. So that we then extended these backhoe trenches into the levee, and we came upon the powder magazine almost exactly where Mr. Bradford thought it would be. We opened up the area in order to expose as much of the backhoe, as much of the powder magazine as we could safely. So we had that established. We also wanted to get another point on the fort, as we had said, and we knew that the trenches were, the moat around the fort was brick lined. So we began putting backhoe trenches in areas where we thought the brick lined moat would be, and we discovered various points along the moat, and we have actually discovered the point where it turns and there's a star shape according to the fort plans, and so we actually uncovered one of the stars in the brick lined moat. And those are our main 2 points that we're going to use to orient the fort. In the process of doing all of the trenches along the toe of the levee there, we discovered, as I had indicated earlier, some really interesting brick chain walls. We started chasing those out, try to figure out exactly what they were. And what we found is that there are these multiple layers of building. We've got a layer of brick sitting on top of some rubble, and then we've got another layer of rubble, and then we've got another layer of brick, so that there seems to have been multiple layers of building, which is typical of an archaeological site. It's never a perfect situation where you find everything just laid out like at the Pompeii, where the volcanic ash covers everything. It's usually layers and layers of occupation. We're trying to figure out exactly what it is that we have here in the front. We think it may date to it may date to the fort occupation. We may have part of what was the flagpole, or part of where the flagpole would have stood, because the brick that we're finding there in that front area, much of it appears to be decorative brick. Some of it's in the shape of a diamond, some of it's rectangular shape, but it all is in one area is just single layer of brick, so it couldn't have supported anything particularly heavy. It would not have been a foundation for anything. We have found some curious things below the. We found a metal rod below the below this decorative brick area that we're still trying to figure out what it is. So it's archaeology is trying to put together just a lot of different clues and trying to solve the mystery of how these different layers of occupation, what they reflect. Does this represent does the lowest level represent perhaps the lowest level where we're finding artifacts representing something that predates the Union fort? Is it perhaps this area was maybe used after the fort was occupied? There was a public school, we know, or a school, not a public school, but a schoolhouse in this the general fort area. Perhaps it dates to that time period. We don't know for sure. But we've taken large artifact samples, and we're going to be analyzing them in the lab, and we'll hopefully be able to get a much better handle on some of the chronology of the site once we've done the analysis. We're also going to be doing detailed maps of all the major areas of excavation, and going to be using those in a report, our final report, in discussing our findings here at the fort. And ultimately, we're going to have all of this is going to get covered up again, and at that point then, if archaeologists later on want to return, they'll know exactly how the fort was oriented and where our excavations were, and they'll have our records, and they can go back to them and begin doing work a whole lot quicker and answering some of the questions that we're not able to answer during this stage of the investigations.
Dr. Hayes, do you have any idea of how much longer this particular dig is going to go on? Can you make any kind of a prognosis on that? Or?
We're going to be, this is probably the final day we're going to be doing actually any excavations. The remaining work is going to be doing these detailed mapping work using transit and drawing all the brick patterns. I hope to be done with that in the next week, maybe the next week and a half. And at that point then we're going to have to start the process of burying all of this again, and that's going to be a fairly involved process because we need to put the dirt back in properly, compact it properly so that the levee is safe.
And this is the port that you think was the restroom, or?
Right, this was the outhouse. This was the emergency outhouse. Call them a privy.
Room? Was I using it? Yeah, I was using it.
Is that a leg bone, you think? Or?
Yeah, I really think it. I was hoping it was a human bone, but they tell me it's a cow bone or a deer bone.
4, 3, 2.
Okay, Rick, what we have here is the arch and the powder magazine wall. This was the front wall of the powder magazine, and it extended from this point 12 bricks deep. And then your arch started right here, and it arched around in this direction. This section right here was part of the original wall, the outer wall. It made an L shape and came back in this direction. Okay, from this point, you had to step down to come into the powder magazine. See, it's concreted here. This stuff was real hard. You came in here, you had to step down, and then you actually went into the powder magazine and extended back about another 20 feet into the levee from this point.
4, 3, 2.
Rick, what we have right here is the other side of the step that goes down into the powder magazine. This, of course, was the wall, and it continued up this way. And once you got into the inside of the powder magazine, it started to make its arch again, and you can see how the bricks here come around, and they would arch over in this direction. And this was, of course, 12 bricks thick. So you can see that's over almost 3.5 foot thick with solid brick. And this was the front of it, and you can see the foundation right here.
3, 2.
Okay, Rick, what we have here is the powder magazine going down to a depth of about 3 foot. And so you can see that things were pretty sturdy at this particular point. You had a lot of weight on the front of it. And this is just another example of the craftsmanship that was used when this was built. And it was built with the freed slaves from down the bayou.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Okay, Rick, what we have here is the top of the powder magazine. This top was right where you're standing at. And when they rebuilt the levee in 1938, they took the top of it off and toppled it over and put all this brick to cover all the foundation of the fort, whatever had been left. And then they covered over the entire part of the powder magazine in brick with layers of dirt. And they actually made this a berm. This is not part of the levee proper, but a berm that they put in 1938 just to cover the brick of the powder magazine in the fort. So that's what this rubble is right here.
All right, 5, 4, 3, 2.
As you can see, we had to dig down into the berm to actually come down in this, to reach this point. Down in here is the privy. And this was once the bathroom, and they filled it with debris, and then it went from one place to the other. But we found a lot of interesting artifacts, including a gold ring, inside this privy.
Basically clean off.
Okay, Rick.
Okay, hang on.
Knocking dirt down in here, so you need to try and pull everything.
Make sure I'm focused throughout the range here.
Go away. Makes sense. Yeah, the idea when you do something like this is that you always
5,
clean off the farthest
4,
area in front of you so that you don't
2.
Okay, Rick, we're down in the moat area of the fort. This is actually one of the inner star points. And this timber was originally set at an angle, and the bricks were laid atop it, and then the moat went from here under. It went down 14 foot and went in this direction 16 foot. These bricks were used to fill in the moat after they decided to do away with the fort. But in building the fort, they put the timbers at an angle to catch the dirt that might come off the slope, to keep it from, as the earthen slope went up this direction and was 16 foot tall. That's what they used to keep any dirt from falling back down into the moat. It went out in this direction to a star point. This is the inner point of the star, which went back out in this direction, almost to the telephone pole. So this is the actual point where the moat turned. You can see how the bricks are and where it's turning and going in different directions. This was a critical point. We needed to have this point in the powder magazine in order to determine the exact location of the fort. So now that we have this, we have some engineering points to start from, and we have taken the transit and shot the actual points. And this is now we know exactly where the fort was and how it was set up. But that's what's in this trench right here. Hopefully, once the Fort Butler Foundation gets established and we get more funding, we'll do some excavation and get these bricks out, and then hopefully find the cannon right in here that was supposedly dumped here, rolled off the top of the levee in about 1895. Now, whether or not it's here or in some other part that we might not be able to get to, we don't know, but this is the story that's been told to us.
4, 3, 2.
Okay, Rick, now what these flags represent right here is the top of the fort. This would have been the part where the soldiers shot down onto whoever was attacking. And if you looked, this star point went out in the westerly direction right here. And if you look down here, this was the moat that went out in parallel those flags. You can just see exactly, the trail that these bricks are stacked in, going in that same direction. And that was the moat once it had been filled in. But this would have been the top of the fort wall going out toward the easterly direction.
The last sentence is 5, 4, 3, 2.
Okay, this is the top of the fort wall looking toward the western direction, or westerly direction, okay?
4, 3, 2.
Okay, Rick, what we have here is the inner point of the store, the point that we had identified earlier, and this going in this direction, looking south, you can see that the moat would go out in this direction, and the stakes represent the top of the south wall. And so that's what you're looking at in this direction. And it goes out toward that stop sign right there. You can see those flags. That would have been the top of the fort wall looking south.
If you want to use, yeah, it'd be a good idea. If you want to meet with them all, yeah, you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go do it right now.
Okay. All right. You ready, Rick? Leave that little toy around here. Leave that here.
Okay, you may bust the stops. One of those stops bust either.
No, I'm not gonna bust it.
Been busting them?
Okay.
A little bit further, just down. Okay, right there.
What I'm gonna come back and do, I'm gonna buy some more orange tape, and I'm gonna tape that as a top, a point.
He wants to do the outside and inside. Like that.
You need some help? Yeah, this is good, Calvin. That gives us actual points. Okay. Right in here?
A little bit more this way. More towards that. Okay.
Rick, what this is the southern point of the top of the fort. This is the southern star. Ready? we're standing on the back wall of the fort about right here at this point. And I'll show you some other points. If you play way out there, that's the other store right here. In the front part of the store, they got a stop sign right in front of the building. And that's this point right here. This point on the fort is north on the other side. There's actually it came this way from down the Bayou. Wild, it came down this way, and they came to their tax north side of called a line of abatis, and they had some trees and stakes that protected this whole area. Now they did have some houses out in this area that was inside the perimeter. They had a stockade that went from that point where they're standing back to the river, and the stockade was just timbers up right here. They had spikes driven through it, but you couldn't climb on it. You tried to climb it, that went all the way to the water's edge. And over here they had another stockade going back in this direction. Oh, they didn't know that this boat was back here. They just thought they could get behind the stockade and go right up this wall of the fort. But they didn't know that they had a 16-foot wide boat, 14-foot deep, so at one another. And of course, the guys that were on top, they had a better shot at it than the ones on the bottom. And so a lot of people died from that right here. But this is the area that took place, which is right back over. Involved, they had 45 troops from the 28th Maine, commanded by a guy named Bullen. And Bullen was short-handed of men. And so he had to do, they had some black troops and black civilians that were building all the buildings and doing all the brickwork that you'll see. Confederate troops. He sent a message to Bullen, and he said, Major Bullen, he said, I suggest that you surrender the fort to us now, and if not, move all the civilians out of this area, out of Donaldsonville.
Good. I wonder.
Have you driven all the way in?
Basically, kind of this area right here. There were close to 100. Shannon and Phillip's regiments numbered about 300 to 400 men. So you had 300 to 400 men fighting this particular area. Half of them didn't leave. Half of them were right there. They stayed as either dead, wounded, or captured. But they had a large number. And of course, like I said, most of them were buried in this particular Confederate.
Musty powder and other things that came out. They had loaded shells that you could fire. When you put a shell above the people so that the shrapnel would cut them down. We don't know at this point if we're going to try to reconstruct the fort, and we may get some funding to do this, but we don't know what's going to happen at this point. But during high water, just the water level, when the river comes up this high, this will be a boat just filled with water. So we can't leave this exposed. We're going to be covering up in about 2 to 3 weeks. The archaeologists, what they're doing, layer of brick rubble and finding the figures coming down on the sand. And that was what we were digging for Mount Festival. And so we knew we hadn't found any tanks of forts there.
We've had a number of different speculations as to what all of this represents here. This is actually, for instance, this area particularly, kind of decorative military area. We do know, though, also that there was a school here that came after the fort, and it's possible that they created some kind of little garden area associated with it. And that brings me to another important point about archaeology here, is that going back again to these different layers of sand, with archaeology, we're digging through different layers of history.
You'll see bricks that line it, that they took from across the bayou. The bayou, basically, you can see part of the bayou over here that ends, and it's of course dammed up and turned into. But the bayou, you see the building over here, the flag, the bayou is in right
Wow.
Kind of fired to demonstrate it, let y'all see how this thing works. We're going to go through the gun drill. Huh?
Which way would it be shot?
Probably in the direction we'll make it. Look right over here.
Gee, that junk's heavy. I can pick it up on
Okay, y'all not with me.
Wait, look, you took COVID. Let me try to pick it up by myself.
Fired it. A portion of the explosion would go around the shell, light the fuse, and hopefully take a carriage wheel off or something like that, or disable the enemy gun. And be much more likely to hit the target at closer range. But at longer ranges, the rifle gun is definitely an advantage. It could outrange the smooth target. Now this gun right here, this barrel, is an original barrel. It was made in 1864. This was one that's back.
Like to buy it, probably about 50 grand. Close that lid a little bit more for me. Get you a good vantage shot. Yeah. It's not as hot as it used to. Right Tiffany.
do the same thing. Yeah, open it. I let you do it when it's fire, open it. Yeah, we have the thing to be fire. We're doing some practice now. When we try, we're going to tell. We should have brought out. Yeah.
I thought it was ready to happen.
Me too.
I was braced.
This is very stressful.
Oh man, he's going up further.
Now we got to change position. I had a good tree to lean against here.
Look, see that I'm putting it in there. It's 5 minutes with an actual fire. And the boom, boom. Good, Phillip. Pull your mouth open. Pull your mouth open. Coming in, coming.
God, that was loud. The fort! Fort kissed my butler!
Y'all gather in so y'all can hear me. But y'all gather in a little bit more. Everybody can hear me in the back? Never lost. It was never exchanged. There was a fight. There was a battle here at this fort fought during the early morning of June 28, 1863. It was fought from about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning until that sunrise. A very rare night battle. There was an estimated 10,000 engagements during the Civil War. 99.9% of those battles were fought during the day for the simple reason you couldn't see 10 feet in front of you at night by the Mississippi River. If they attacked during the day, they could be shelled by the Union Navy. And so to prevent that and to screen their movements, they attacked this fort at nighttime. And they were repulsed. They were defeated. They were not able to take this fort. The munitions for the cannons and muskets and such were held. There were 6 24-pound siege guns at this fort at the time. This cannon that you see here, that's a 12-pounder. It's holding it. So kind of double the payload there, and that's what kind of guns we had. So huge guns, 24 pounds. So all the munitions were kept in this magazine.
Something lost a lot, you know.
Yeah, they have something available here for people to come and visit, trying to get people involved.
I can understand why it was buried over there. It was living there. They should have buried it. But I could understand that. But here, this area.
Well, I suppose they could have gone around, but they didn't for whatever reason. But thanks to the efforts of Andrew. It's a very historic place. Unfortunately, now a lot of people step out here just a second. Hey, we have a tour starting in a few minutes. Everybody's interested? For you all that missed the cannon firing, there'll be another.
Yeah. Hey! Don't be doing that! Come on. Whoa!
You're never completely away from official capacity.
What are you going to do with all this?
It's just documentary footage.
And they put us all on the ground. I guess it'll be part of history. So Tommy was there.
Tommy was there. Put it in the capsule down here.
By the count. Load. 9 times. Load. First thing they would do is they would put the musket between their feet. You want to keep that musket away from you. The weapon, which will be dangerous when it's loaded. Prefer if not to shoot your nose. Look, it's they reach to their cartridge box. They will take out a paper cartridge, which would have a lead ball at the end and a charged powder. Handle cartridge. The cartridge will go between their teeth. They will tear the end for the paper off, pour the powder down the barrel, put the lead ball in on top of it. Hair cartridge. Charge cartridge. These weapons require the ball and the powder pushed down to the bottom of the barrel, so it can be impacted by the charge and the percussion track. Draw rammer. Now, since soldiers fight shoulder to shoulder, it's important that they all do this together, otherwise we have a sword fight in front lines. Ram cartridge. Return rammer. You see what I mean? We have raw recruits here today. Prime. These weapons will not shoot until a percussion cap is put on them. This is very much like a modern cap gun. That you have a little charge in a metal cap, which will, when hit, explode. It will send a charge down to the main powder charge and set the powder off. Fire by detail. Ready! Aim! Fire! Order! On! Somebody.
doing whatever they're doing. Really.
They really look like they know what they're doing, huh?
I guess I did the west never saw it lubricated. Wow.
So they're getting ready for
Probably put fire simulate once every 3 or 4 minutes. Probably to let it cool down and melt the sucker. What man do walking up there? Look where he's walking. Right from the county.
I thought they were going to do it.
They're just drilling now.
Oh, they're drilling again.
Oh.
False alarm, false alarm. Wait for the drum blow, man.
What happened?
They're practicing.
Simulate. I'm not sure. Oh, this guy's gonna let us know.
Being right up close to it.
Buffalo soldiers. We up in President about this. We got some in the we don't see them in the car.
They did that already.
that many times before they can shoot.
Maybe they're giving it a double charge. He's got the string. They didn't load yet. See the strings off. But they're practicing this long.
Yeah, practicing this time, huh?
And no wonder we lost them. It took us this long to load our camera.
Cemetery Ridge and how it goes.
No, I'm sure there's a reason for it. I don't get this.
Can't fly the camera.
I hope I don't run out of tape. I mean, I don't know how much I got left. I've been taking a lot of footage out here. Oh no, Mr. Leo! Mr. Leo! Oh, one way or the other, please. No harm done. I just thought they were getting ready there.
Gotta put that thing on pause.
Yeah, you're right. Did he say now they're going to actually fire it?
No, he said number 4 man is the one that actually falls. He's going to each man when he pulls the string.
That was 3, huh?
Oh, somebody.
Hey, Drew! Andrew! Oh, man.
Have a meal without everybody. You're blocking our shot. You got another one.
Okay, get ready to shoot.
Man. There you go.
Oh, Lou! Oh, yeah, Rick. Couple years, man.
Jumped over there. He was ready for it. Jumped and he was ready.
I guess they're going to fire it again, huh? Hey folks, could you step aside? Step aside a little bit, please. Or get down. Thanks. Oh yeah. Oh, they're gonna let that Channel 33 girl do it. They said it's even louder when they put a ball in it.
They will have rapid fire shoots.
Which one did it go down?
Look, there's the rebels. I gotta shoot back. See them underneath the guns? Down the way here, see them?
Hey, are they gonna do the cannon?
Yeah, the guy with the
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to artillery taking out to do a demonstration with the artillery team. They want to hear what's going on.
Old Donaldsonville family getting this donated. Where the house is right here, which is owned by another old family, getting this donated. And this is currently owned by either the state or...
Probably because this engineering was a state engineer, I can tell you that.
There's a possibility, and we're talking implemented. And you had these guys back home.
Almost 90 place, and he's been teaching Sunday school for 75 years. And fascinating. One of the finest people that you never learn to go. He can tell a story better than anybody.
This place was all obliterated by old
When y'all used to work in the fields, what would the sugar house and bell roll say?
In the morning, it would ring round about 4 o'clock in the morning. And one plantation bell would say, hell yeah, hell yeah. Another one would say, same damn thing here, same damn thing here. And another one would say, balance do, balance do.
So the bell, that's how y'all knew the bells by the way that they would talk to.
That's right, they would ring.
And that was what, about 1920s? Or?
Oh no, man, around 1914, 1912. And 1912, during 29 and 30, the bells stopped ringing.
Oh, okay.
You see, your needs used to, the bell would ring, and when they stopped ringing, your condition would make you get up in the morning. You know, You see, whenever they had to wake you up in the morning to go to work, and after that thing dropped down, and the condition you were in, it would wake you up in the morning, you know.
It's very quiet.
That's right.
No TV or radio in those days.
No. Well, you had a better situation because everybody was strong Christian people, and they always would raise children under a Christian spirit. And they had more respect among human people than you have now, because you can't help the neighbor with their children like you could at that time. You see, now you have a legal law for children to do wrong. You can't chastise your children because they can call the law, and the law will take them from you.
But in the old days, you didn't spare the children. You didn't spare the rock.
The neighbor could chastise your children, and it was a help to you. And we don't realize it now. And one of the most serious things in our lives, children go having children. and they're not in a shape to raise children that they're coming up with, and that make them have a wild nature.
I think you're right.
Yeah, that is.
I read in they have in Marksville, they have Buddhist tombs, but then
he pictured himself as being a true Southerner and a gambler. He had a growing family.
He didn't give it. He was supposed to call me back today.
Well, as they used in this cigar, $44,000. This is the only call on this. I'll take that I did a treadmill and after they runs around 130, 130.
How are you now?
And it has always been.
It's erratic.
I think
it is erratic.
Well, I know it's erratic.
It's got to be.
That's what you meant.
This is Ruth Shepherd, and she is, I call her my English teacher and guidance counselor and everything else. But she is a very special person. When I was writing for Jambalaya magazine, she read and proofed every one of my stories. And so she has gradually helped me to learn how to write the English language over the past few years. And but the amazing thing about her is that she spent her 90th birthday on the Mediterranean on the European tour, on the Baltic Sea, not just on the Baltic, I'm sorry. But she is leaving next weekend for Medjugorje, and she's going back to Europe. So she's a world traveler. And how old are you?
91.
91.
Did he take it?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that.
And the amazing thing, I'm going to ask her to tell a story about who Uncle Frank is. Tell us who Uncle Frank is.
Oh, you better tell that.
Oh, yeah, that's why I know so interested in it. So I took that American history.
She is the niece of, great niece of Francis T. Nichols, and she talks about Uncle Frank as a person who is not very far away. But Uncle Frank, of course, was Francis T. Nichols, who I consider one of the greatest generals in the war. But she is a very unique and a sweet person. Why don't you tell us about 1927 when you won your way from Alexandria, when you were working in there? I want you to tell that story about what happened.
Well, I was visiting Alexandria, and it was about time to come home. And every morning when I go into breakfast, Mr. McKee, who was the father of the girl I was visiting, would say, well, how are you going to get home? I think you're going to have trouble. I said, oh, no, I'm not going to have trouble. I was used to high water, but I didn't know it would be like that. Anyway, I got home on Holy Saturday. And the levee broke, and Champlain River Bridge was swept away about 2 days after, so I really did just it. And then I discovered I would have had to go by way of Lake Charles to get home. That's the thing, it was swept away, the bridge was swept away.
So she's got unique stories like this that I hear about and remember and in my mind, and I think about quite often, about the trip to midnight mass in the buggy when y'all would stop at the Donld Frazier.
I was like a long way. Midnight mass is not every Christmas. They would go in a carriage, pull out a horse, I guess I must have been one too. And you all have to cover up with black hole. Sometimes it would rain, it was still wet. Christmas didn't seem like Christmas to us, but
One more story. When you were a little girl, I think you were going to communion, and you had on your white shoes, your brand new white shoes, And at that time, whenever we had the rainy season, the river would overflow the levees constantly. We had about 3 foot of water throughout all of Donaldsonville.
Well, I don't remember connecting with that, but I do know that the water was almost dumped out. Right. And you would thought it was bad. We found out that the levee was holding all right, but there was so much water was splashing over the levee. In addition to all the rainfall we had, the rain poured down every day for about a week. So that was an ordeal.
What year was that?
It's been along about 1912. Because I know that in the fire when Holt was Johnsonville and Alabama, I was just very close together. I was 7 then.
It's an amazing story. This is living history right here.
Well, anybody else would have the same experience if they lived long enough.
I appreciate you being here.
You're very sweet. I'm glad I could.
That's great.
Yeah, that.
I think this came from.
Molly.
Yeah, Molly Wiggins.
Yeah.
This came from St. Angelo as well. You know, I found a document where Tom Green lists all the casualties from the Battle of Fort Butler. So if in fact they're still in the levee over here. So if there's anybody over there, who knows?
Yeah, we need to get those guys identified.
Well, we need to put a big piece of pink Texas granite over there. Yeah. Just like they did at Sharpsburg and Mansfield and at Gettysburg.
Yeah. Or plant one of the what do you call them? Typical plant up there in the hill country and on to the west that they used at the Vicksburg, Texas mine.
Oh yeah, all those prickly pears and whatnot. Except they come over here and mildew.
Yeah. Just life is hard.
Reproduce that Vicksburg mine.
We don't know that they had bullets there. But Chris said, man, that thing's got to be filled with bullets right there. He said, the whole wall's got to be shot up. And so him and Shelby went. Yeah, he said, he started metal detecting, I guess, about 2 years ago. And
I want everybody to start. Y'all come and get at the table here, please. Donld Frazier and. Okay, what we want to do, we want to start off. I want everybody to introduce themselves because we're all here because of one thing, and that's Fort Butler and trying to make it a reality. And everybody is extremely important, and so we're going to start off over here at this table. And so if you introduce yourself, I'll say, I want to make a comment after you do. So Benny?
My name's Benny Tilbury, and I was a volunteer on the dig.
All right, Benny is also one of our board of, our area board of advisory board. And he also has provided us with copies of all the things on Fort Butler. He's the manager at Kinko's in Baton Rouge. So he's also one of the metal detectors and diggers that did a lot of the digging at Fort Butler when we had the archaeological dig.
I'm Linda Wiggs. I was also a volunteer on the dig.
Dr. Linda Wiggs.
Actually, Linda she more or less was in charge of the project that Chris Hayes started. Chris was not there on some of the occasions, and Linda was out there, I think with Heather some of the time, but most of the time Linda took care of running the whole operation of the dig at Fort Butler. She's also with the metal detector, and she's on the board of directors for the Fort Butler Foundation.
Calvin Wiggs?
That's the other half of Linda Wiggs is Calvin, and Calvin is an engineer. He does all the mapping. We're mapping all the battle sites from Donaldsonville down to Lafourche Crossing, and he is recording every bullet that we find and making a master map. And he played a major role in the Fort Butler dig out there. He was in charge of whatever Linda told us to do. He was one of the doers, and so. All right, and next.
Heather Olson. I was Chris Hayes' assistant, I guess.
Yeah, Heather it was one of the main workers too. She was there almost every day, and her and Linda pretty well took care of the Fort Butler site.
I'm David Palmer. I'm a student at LSU, and I just started working for Castiegne actually, and I've been doing some like archival research for the
Well, good. Good to have you. And next is.
I'm McGimsey. I'm the Southwest Regional Archaeologist for the state, and I help Chris, who's largely responsible for the excavations in the moat.
Yeah, yeah. Chip was the guy that had a normal, a guy has a shovel. Well, he wore his out. His blade was about this big. And he was out there from daylight to dawn. I mean, listen, he had to drive from Lafayette every day, and he was the first one to be there and the last one gone on the days that he had to, that he was there. And he was there most of the time. But Chip played a major part, and we appreciate him for all his efforts. And Roger, we'll have him doing some excavation at Brashear, at which one is it, Roger?
Bisland.
At Fort Bisland in Morgan City. So that's going to be one of our next projects. Okay?
Danny Brown, I'm one of the volunteers, member of the Metal Detecting Club.
Yeah, Danny has been part of the a stabilizing force with the Baton Rouge Pelican Relic and Recovery group, and he came down and volunteered his time. And another interesting thing, he and his wife Cheryl have only been married for 1 year. They had they were high school, they knew each other in high school, and then got back together and then married after how many years?
30.
30 years. And so they're newlyweds. And Danny also happens to run the Louisiana Tax Authority. What is your position?
I'm the communications director for the Louisiana Department for Revenue and Taxation.
Yeah, in other words, he collects the money.
I don't collect the taxes. I don't collect the taxes. I just make us look good while we're doing it.
Okay.
Janet Francis, I was supervisor. Miss Sure, Linda.
Janet is also on the advisory board for Fort Butler Foundation, and her husband BJ was a mayor at the time and contributed greatly to making the dig at Fort Butler a success. And we appreciate her efforts for being out there as well. And you get to this. Go ahead.
My name is Benny Butler Jenkins. I'm a resident of Donaldsonville. I'm a cousin of Janet, and I'm here as a guest today.
Well, good.
Oh, and we are great-great-grandchildren of Benjamin Butler.
I knew that. I wasn't going to say it. I'm glad you did. Okay. Okay. Okay, and next we have...
I'm Diana Young. I teach Louisiana Studies at Lower Middle. And ironically, I'm not even from Ascension Parish. I'm from Livingston Parish. But, and I wasn't too much in on the digging because for some reason people put me on every committee that takes place in Donaldsonville. And I was too busy, but I am interested in history because we're where we are today as a result of yesterday. And I think it's so important to know.
Dinah is also, she serves on our local advisory board, and she has a guest who happens to be one of my dear friends. And why don't you introduce yourself?
Miller Blackwell.
Miller Blackwell. Reverend Miller Blackwell taught Sunday school for over 75 years, and they made him an honorary gave him an honorary job, but the only thing he's got to travel the whole state now for the Baptist. But anyway, he told me a story, he told me many stories, but one of the most interesting was a story about the bells as they would ring, and as they were sugarcane field workers would be working in the fields back in 1914. He said that the different bells, he worked at Bell Alliance, and he said the bells at Bell Alliance and the bells in Bell Road, from a distance when you would hear the bell, it would say something to you. And could you just tell me briefly what the bell, what was the story?
The story of the bells, there's 3 bells. One bell would ring and the sound of it would say Hail Hill, Hail Hill. And the next plantation bell would ring and say same damn thing here. the next bell that would ring, it would say balance due. Balance due. Because you owed the store around $8 to $10 and you only was getting about $4 or $5 a week.
So he had a long life. He's 91 and he's in terrific shape for his age, and we appreciate him being here.
I'm Mary Jackson. I'm from Donaldsonville. I've talked once or twice with Andrew on the phone. Today was a chance to meet him. I'm very much interested in the Fort Butler project.
Mary's going to be active in helping us to raise funds as we go on with the project, and she's on our local advisory board. We appreciate her being here.
I'm Ella Matrician. I'm the publisher of the Donaldsonville newspaper.
And we appreciate Ella. Ella has given us support and coverage on all our events and activities that took place for the past few months, and well, the past couple of years anyway. We appreciate her being here. And next, this is, where's Glenn at?
Yeah.
Glenn?
Maybe I should say,
Okay.
I'm Angela Falgoust. This is my daughter Leslie, who suddenly has lost her tongue. And this is my home, and I welcome all of y'all here.
Well, we appreciate Angela and Glenn, because without them we wouldn't have Fort Butler to be recognized at all. Without their efforts to coordinate and all the work that they do constantly, none of this would ever happen, and we wouldn't be near where we were if it wouldn't be for Angela and Glenn. We really appreciate them. And then next is,
I'm Meryl. I'm Andrew's daughter.
this is Meryl, my daughter, who puts up with me and all my history stories to everybody that walks in. And when she'd come in from college, every weekend she'd have a different group with them, and I said, "Did y'all know the story about Francis T. Nichols, where y'all go?" "Oh no, never heard of him." I said, "Well, sit down, you're fixing to learn." And this is her friend.
Oh, I'm Rebecca Lamry. I'm a friend of the Capones, and I've heard many stories.
Well, we appreciate Rebecca being here. And
I'm Judy Capone, Andrew's wife and Meryl's mother.
And yeah, if it wouldn't be for her, I don't think I would be here. So I owe everything to her. She's been my stabilizing force and the love of my life from when I was young. So I'm very proud of her.
And I'm Ruth Shepard, a native of Donaldsonville and a friend of Andrew's. And because of that, I'm invited to this affair, for which I'm very grateful.
Miss Shepard, when I was writing for Jambalaya magazine, she proofed all my articles and taught me how to write. And she taught at Nichols for years and everything. And as we would be reviewing some of the stories, she would tell me all these little tidbit stories. And she would say, "Well, Mama said this about Uncle Frank, and then Mama said this about Uncle Frank. And Uncle Frank happens to be Francis T. Nichols." And so she would relate these stories like of history to me. And anyway, she's been fascinating for me to be with, and I love her. And she's just been a terrific asset into my life. And we appreciate her.
Thank you.
And by the way, she's only, well, how old?
I will be 92.
92.
Say he was 91. But you're talking about this? I will be 92, my next birthday in about a couple of months.
Okay.
I'm Leonard Simoneaux. I was a volunteer at the Fort Butler dig and also a friend of Andrew.
Leonard was one of our, he's the kind of guy that you can count on to be there when everything gets tough. And whenever you need somebody to be around, you always have to have somebody that can help out, that's got a strong back and a good mind, because Leonard was always there when we needed a backhoe. Well, we needed the levee dug out. So after about 2 or 3 days, I said, "Chris," I said, "you're never going to dig that levee out with them digging by shovelfuls and shaking them little screens." I said, "We need a backhoe to get down to where the stuff is." And he said, after the 3rd day, he said, "Yeah, I think you're right." So Leonard was our operator. The city donated us a backhoe, and Leonard got out there, and he played a major role in the Fort Butler. He was out there almost every day too. We appreciate Leonard.
My name is Tom Hayes. I'm from Texas, and whenever I hear that Glenn and Andrew are cooking crawfish, I like to come down.
Tom serves on our National Advisory Board. Tom is a PhD, teaches at one of the universities in Texas, and he is one of the original founders and was at the first summit that we had on Fort Butler, which was 3 years ago. And so he is also got his PhD under Grady McQuinny, who was supposed to be here today but had a stroke yesterday. And but anyway, we appreciate Tom and his efforts to keep us informed and keep us involved. He's just completed his last manuscript, brought it to LSU Press yesterday. So he's got another a Civil War book coming out by LSU Press, hopefully within the next year, whenever they publish it. And next?
I'm Donld Frazier. I'm an associate professor of history at McMurray University in Abilene, Texas. And I'm currently doing research on all the Texans that came to save Louisiana from the evil Yankees. So, I'm here to represent the Lone Star State and say, you know, we tried our best.
Don is a strange thing how we got tied up with Don.
Well, I'm just strange.
We had I was talking to Art Bergeron one day. I said, man, listen, who is this guy, Tom Green? And I said, I need to find out more about him. He said, well, you know, he said, just so happens they got this guy in Texas that's writing his biography. He's been doing so for about the last 10 or 12 years. He said, but I don't think he's ever finished it. And so anyway, I told Glenn, I said, Glenn, we need to get in touch with this guy. And so Glenn knows how to get in touch with anybody. So over a period of time, he finally got in touch with with Don, sent him all kind of material, and all of a sudden, we never heard no more from Don. And then, somehow or another, we made connections, and then I
got hungry. I just coffee. Nothing to do with coffee.
So anyway, but Don has done a lot of research, and he's also on our National Advisory Board, and we're proud to have him with us. And he's a good, I don't know what you call a country boy from Texas. I guess just that, not a redneck, not a hillbilly, but I don't know. But anyway, he's just a good Texan. We appreciate him being here.
I'm Chris Pena from Thibodeau.
Chris is he's on our board of directors, and Chris has just completed his book on the battles along Bayou Lafourche. Chris has been writing and studying about the battles that took place along the bayou for years, and finally completed this book. And he's also our recording secretary for the Fort Butler Foundation, and he does all our correspondence, especially for trying to find money so that we can get this thing moved to the next level. We'll get into that a little bit later. But Chris is one of the driving forces of Fort Butler that's going to help us to get that money that we need through grants and so on. We're glad to have Chris on board. By the way, he teaches nursing and stuff at Nichols, Fort Nichols, and he also works at the ICU. And when I call up over there in the ICU, when I'm looking for him, I said, "Is the colonel around?" And the nurses say, "Colonel Pena, Colonel Pena."
I'm the ranking senior Confederate officer in the ICU. So I'm a colonel. I'm a reenactor too. I'm a private in the field, but I'm a colonel in the ICU.
Okay.
I'm Harold Capella. I'm the newly elected mayor, and I didn't get in on the Fort Butler program at the beginning. I did attend the digging and the program that you had, and I was very impressed with that. I know the former mayor, B.J. France, was very instrumental in this, and I plan to carry on where he left off. I know he'll continue to work with you, and I will also, and I want to offer whatever the city can do to you to complete your project.
Well, we appreciate that. Thanks.
Let me change stage before we do it. I want to be sure to
Okay. All right.